Hi, my name's Matt and I'd like to welcome you to this Zindiac video on service request management. This is part of the co-create step of the customer journey and part of our ITIL specialist course, Drive Stakeholder Value. Let's start off by looking at the purpose of service request management, which is to support the agreed quality of a service by handling all predefined user-initiated service requests in an effective and user-friendly manner. So the two key things to pick out from that are that the service requests are predefined as to what they can be, what the users can request, and that it's user-initiated. So we've talked before about activities that are service provider initiated. These are user initiated, so it's not where we're pushing services to the user, it's where they're pulling services to themselves when they need them. We've also got the definition there of service request, a request from a user or a user's authorized representative that initiates the service action which has been agreed as a normal part of service delivery. So it's in the contracts, it's in the SLA, the agreement. It's obviously an important type of user query and an important part of the user experience. And again, I mentioned before when we talked about incident management, that's key for the user experience and the user perception of the service, and so is service request management. So service request management, because it's user initiated, they're more invested in the outcome of the process, really. So whereas, particularly in corporate environments, in a corporate environment, I may join the organisation and they say, right, sign the IT agreement, sign the IT usage policy, and there's your laptop, there's your phone, there's your tablet, whatever client devices I'm given. I'm given access to maybe the Office applications, maybe a CRM or an ERP application, whatever applications I need to do my job. But that's all kind of pushed at me. Fine, great. But if I'm making a service request, it's something I've determined that I need personally, really. And so I'm much more invested in it. So that's why it's particularly important. They typically include a request to initiate a service action, a request for information, a request for access to a resource or service, and also we include feedback, compliments, and complaints. The way I always remember it is it's everything the service desk does that isn't incident management. So obviously the service desk is key for incident management, but everything else really is service request management. It's the user initiating contact with the service provider for a reason other than an incident. So nothing's gone wrong, but they want to contact us for another reason. Fulfilling service requests may include changes, often does. So if I request a new bit of software or an upgrade of an operating system or access to an application, whatever it might be, that's obviously a change. And when we talked about change enablement, one of the key parts of change enablement and having a efficient change enablement process is to have an appropriate number of standard changes, and that is pre-authorized changes. So what we don't want to do is if I'm a user, maybe one of 10,000, maybe more users, and I just want a small change to my laptop, I don't want that delayed by having to go to a cab, clearly. I just want it pre-authorized. Yes, okay, you want Microsoft Project or whatever it might be on your laptop, boom, there you go. It's pre-authorized, away you go. Some service requests will require authorization, so typically it's to do with cost. Yeah, so if it's a relatively low cost, it can be pre-authorized. If it's a higher cost or more risky, if there's more risk to the change, then it may require authorization. Obviously, that's to be determined by the individual organization. Service request management guidelines from ITIL Service requests and their fulfilment should be standardized and automated as far as possible. Policies should be established depending on which service request can be fulfilled with limited or no additional approvals to streamline fulfilment. So that goes back to the standard changes. User expectations regarding fulfilment time should be clearly set based on what the organisation can deliver. And I've talked about this before, so what we don't want to do, we kind of do want to under promise and over deliver, but not to a ridiculous degree. So one of the questions I often get asked as a trainer is by students is, how quickly will I get my exam result? And if you take the exam online, if you've taken an exam online with people, so you will know that you basically get your result immediately. So you finish the exam, you click finish, there's a short questionnaire of 3 or 4 questions, and then they tell you what your result is. And usually within absolute maximum 24 hours, you get an email confirming that result. If you take an exam in the classroom, it shouldn't take very much longer than that. So if you took an exam in a classroom, if you're on a classroom course, which you're obviously not, but if you were and you took an exam in a classroom, at the end of the exam, I would use an app on my phone to scan the paper and go off to PeopleCert, and you would get your exam results in the same sort of time frame. Certainly within 24 hours, I would expect you to have your exam results. Now, some training organisations when I used to deliver training for other training organisations, they'd be quoting like 3 to 4 weeks, and it's, something has to go really badly wrong for it to be 3 to 4 weeks. So what they're really doing is they're just setting a ridiculous length of time so they can be quicker than that. But it's, a lot of people would say to me, is it really going to be 3 to 4 weeks? That's really bad. I'm not happy with that. So because they've set such a ridiculous figure, people are already upset, even though it's never going to be that. So yes, we want to set something that we're sure we can beat, really, or at least meet, but we don't want to make it too ridiculous. So again, when you order this course, we guarantee that we will deliver, or PeopleCert will deliver, your exam voucher within 24 hours. Now, 24 hours I think is reasonable. So depending on exactly where you are in the world and when you order it and some other things, I don't think it's never got close to 24 hours. I think possibly the worst, the maximum time someone's waited is probably somewhere between maybe around 12 hours. So I don't think 24 hours is too bad. Often it's a matter of minutes. It could be 5-10 minutes, but it might be an hour or two. It just depends, as I said, where you are in the world and when you order, and what else we're doing when you place your order. Whether it just happens to pop up and go, we've got an order and we'll do it straight away, or whether we're doing something else and it takes us a little time to process the order. And obviously the PeopleCert site's slightly out of it. So you want something you're sure you can beat or at least match, but not to be too ridiculous. Opportunities for improvement should be identified and implemented to produce faster fulfilment times and leverage automation. And certainly in terms of the exam order process, that's one of the things I've spoken to PeopleCert about and asked them to provide us with an API so that we can automate that process. So when you order with us, we should be able to go via an API and automatically order the exam voucher with PeopleCert, but unfortunately at the moment we can't. It's a manual process, which is disappointing. Policies and workflows should be included for documenting and redirecting any requests that are submitted as service requests, but which should be managed as incidents or changes. So obviously it's key that we recognise if it's an incident and deal with it appropriately, and particularly prioritise it appropriately. Some service requests can be completely fulfilled by automation, allowing for a complete self-service experience, and I'm sure you've come across many of those. I, as it happened, had one today where I was giving someone a voucher code, a promo code for one of our apps, and so I went to the Apple website, and after a bit of searching around, found out how to generate a promo code and generated a promo code. But it was all self-service. There was no human interaction from Apple involved. I was able to fulfill that service request on my own through the website, and I'm sure you've got lots of examples of that. So coming on to service request management success factors. The first one, ensuring that service request fulfillment procedures for all services are optimized. Clearly, it's an important thing, but we don't want to waste time and resources and effort doing it. So development of service request procedures should be integrated early into the product and service lifecycle. And that was in version 3. When we're designing a service, we design everything, including the service request management processes and procedures. A service may be optimized for no request operation. So generic requests would still be available, but what it's saying is, okay, this service, there's no request. You just get the basic service. There's nothing else you can request on top of it if that's appropriate. Or a service may include multiple requests available to users, possibly requests specific to service utility. And so extra things. So particularly one that's very common in corporate environments is requesting additional applications. I've certainly worked for several organisations where you get a laptop or a desktop, you get Microsoft Office or some other Office suite, and then there are other applications like Project, CRM, ERP that are available to you if you need them for your job. But you've got to someone has to request, either you or your manager or authorised representative has to request access to those services. Service requests can also be a differentiator between different levels of service offering. And I kind of think about this a little bit like if you've ever been on an all-inclusive holiday. When you check into the hotel, so obviously the base package is your hotel room, which includes whatever it includes, a double bed, infinity pool, whatever, and certain facilities, general facilities of the hotel, maybe communal pools and so on, maybe some other things. And then there are other things which you basically have to request, so they're available to you, but you have to request. So if it's all inclusive, then the food, so maybe breakfast, lunch, dinner, drinks, soft drinks, wine, beer, and so on, they're available to you, but you have to request them. So you request them by going up to a bar or going up to where it's served and saying, "Can I have that, please?" Or maybe it's an open buffet and you just go and take it. But basically, you're requesting the service, and often the availability of those services to you are designated by you wear a band on your wrist. So depending on what colour band you've got, says what you've got access to. Do you just have access? Maybe if you're a child, you can go and have soft drinks, but you can't have alcohol, perhaps. But there may be other differentiations as well in terms of if you paid more money, maybe you can have better quality wine or more food or whatever it might be, or access to certain areas, certain additional. You've got access to the spa included. If you haven't paid so much money, you can still get access, but you've got to pay additional. So it's that sort of thing, but whatever your service is. Identify, document and test service request fulfillment procedures and assign responsibilities for activities. Ensure requests are described in a catalogue available to users who initiate the request. So that's just good communications, letting the users know exactly what's available to them, and if there's an additional cost or not. So is it kind of included in your package of service and you just have to request it, or is it an additional cost? Optimize the fulfillment procedures and automate them when possible, and that's obviously straight from the ITIL principle of optimize and automate. The next success factor, ensure that all service requests are fulfilled according to the agreed procedures and to user satisfaction. And this is really in line with what we talked about SLAs and user experience and so on. So fulfilling them according to agreed procedures is very much in line with kind of meeting the SLA. but also we need to make sure the user's satisfied. It's no good just kind of saying, well, we met the SLA. If the user's not satisfied, we've got to go the extra mile, make sure the user's satisfied. If the fulfillment procedures are optimized and documented and responsibilities are clear, requests are easy to fulfill and plan for. Okay, easier. Yeah, it's just been positive. Statistics on every type of request can help to optimize resource planning and ensure timely processing of requests. Unlike incidents, service requests do not need to be fulfilled urgently, or not necessarily. So typically an incident is a higher priority. It's having a greater negative impact, but do be careful, because that's not necessarily always the case, and it could certainly not be the case maybe with new joiners, whether that's someone joining the organization from outside, or movers. Yeah, so if I move job, it might be, oh, I'll move job, I now need access to this application and I can't do my job until I get it. That's potentially needs fulfilling as urgently as my colleague who's sat next to me, who's had access to that application for a year but has lost it for some reason. So they've got an incident, they can't access that application. I'm just a mover. I haven't got an incident, but I can't access that application. Neither of us can do our jobs. So the urgency of my colleague's incident and my service request are the same, assuming we're doing the same job for the same bit of the organisation. So do be careful about that. They allow for more comfortable planning and should be completed within an agreed time frame typically. Requests may require a review after fulfilment, either limited to a satisfaction survey or a detailed internal review. We're unlikely to do a detailed internal review for every single service request, but it may be appropriate for a selection. Unless it's just, well, yes. So the satisfaction survey might just be, were you happy, were you not? But doing a detailed review, that's going to cost a significant amount of resource. So we're not going to do it for everyone. That brings us to the end of this video on the service request management practice. I hope you've enjoyed it and found it useful. Please join me in the next video. Until you see me again, have a great day.